Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC Vegas 18, Alistair Overeem versus Alexander Volkov. And Shaq, it's going down tomorrow, Saturday night in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're out of Fight Island. We're back in the Apex. We got a heavyweight main event. And, man, the winner might get a title shot against Stipe and Francis.
Alistair Overeem, in my opinion, is a top 5 all-time heavyweight, one of the greatest heavyweights to ever do it. Strikeforce champ, Dream champ, K1 champ. Hasn't been able to get that UFC belt, but he's still fighting, man. He's still at the top of his game, beating these young guys like Pavlovich, Sakai, Walt Harris. So what he's been able to do is remarkable, in my opinion. And Volkov, one of the tallest heavyweights on the roster, if not the tallest, right? He might be the tallest.
Oh, yeah. Besides Struve.
Yeah, Struve. But he's kind of like, in and out. But Volkov, he gained a lot of weight. His last fight looked the best he ever has. I'm interested to see how he builds off that. We know he's got a lot of talent, got some good wins on his resume. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up the weight thing because I was going to wait till my main event breakdown to bring that up. But let's go ahead and knock it out because Volkov, historically speaking, weighs in the 240s or so because he's always been like a mover. He's got a very good volume style. He moves a lot. And that last fight, he goes in there. He weighs in at the limit, 265 pounds, Shaq. And I thought, oh, man, the quarantine got to my boy Volkov. He put on 20 pounds. And for a mover, I thought that wasn't the way to go. Turns out it was the way to go because now he's sitting down on his punches. And I think we might start seeing some more one-punch knockouts from Volkov, here to come, man.
Yeah, 100%, and he's already got over 20 knockouts, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yeah, definitely. Well, Shaq, let's before we break down this whole card, start to finish, we got to let everyone know that the official electric trimmer of the UFC, Manscaped, not only are the presenting sponsor of this podcast, Half the Battle, but they also sponsor multiple UFC stars, including Max Holloway, Francis Ngannou, and Sugar Sean O'Malley. Manscaped is here to ensure your favorite fighter doesn't miss weight because of their pubes. And I personally like it because just like Kevin Holland, you got to be ready for those short notice opportunities, Shaq. And you know that when the opportunity calls, you can't be like, hey, give me 5 minutes. You got to be ready to go right then and there. That's where Manscaped comes in. And Manscaped is changing the grooming game with their Perfect Package 3.0. The Perfect Package 3.0 includes their premier, the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, and this ceramic blade and skin safe technology are designed to reduce nicks or tugs on your fellows down below. For all our international listeners out there, they just launched their life-changing products in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the EU. Time to hop on the Manscaped movement. Inside the Perfect Package 3.0, you'll also get the Crop Preserver deodorant for below the belt. It's anti-chafing and moisturizing. You'll also find the Crop Reviver toner, which is an aloe vera infused cologne for below the belt. And for a limited time, subscribers get not one, but 2 free gifts. The Shed Travel Bag, which is a $39 value, and the patented high-performance anti-chafing Manscaped Boxers. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BATTLE20 at manscaped.com. Make sure you guys type that in, all caps, BATTLE20. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code BATTLE20 at manscaped.com. And your balls will thank you, Shaq.
I agree 100%. Your balls will thank you. I mean, there's nothing better than feeling good, balls feeling good. You just perform good in all aspects of life after that, man. You don't want to have sweaty balls.
Damn right. And this is the Lawnmower 3.0. This thing's fucking amazing. You see that LED light, so it doesn't matter. You got a power outage, whatever the case is. There's no more excuses when you're using Manscaped products. So make sure you'll go to manscaped.com. Use that promo code BATTLE20, all caps BATTLE20 for 20% off and free shipping. Well, Shaq, let's get right down to business because first up, in the 145-pound division, we got 2 flyweights fighting at 45s because we got O'Day Osbourne, he's 8-3, and Jerome Rivera is 10-4. Currently, they got O'Day Osbourne minus 210. The comeback on Jerome Rivera is plus 175. So, Shaq, this is interesting because I would actually compare O'Day Osbourne to someone who was one of my favorite fighters for a while, who's not currently in the UFC anymore, but they have such a similar style, and that's actually Yuri Alcantara. And I just feel like certain guys are going to get blown out the water by O'Day Osbourne, And I really feel like Jerome Rivera is one of those guys, Shaq. I respect Rivera. He's very tall for the flyweight division. I know this is at 145 pounds, but these are two flyweights. A 5'10", 5'11" flyweight. He's very big. He's got some decent volume. He's a tough guy, but we were kind of saying we weren't sure if he was ready for the UFC level, and I think it's been proven that he's not. I thought he lost his Contender Series fight to Lazy Boy Rodriguez. I saw him get knocked out by Tyson Nam. He definitely lost to Francisco Figueiredo. Now he's got another athletic guy in Ode Osbourne in front of him, and the biggest issue with Ode is his takedown defense. Sometimes he likes to submit people off his back. You know how many takedowns Jerome Rivera's landed in all 3 of his octagon appearances? 0. So I think that Ode Osbourne is going to light this guy up, maybe even put him away. But if it goes the distance, I got Ode as well. I just think he's the much better athlete here. And I think with a year off, we might see an even better and improved version of him. So I'm going Ode Osbourne, Shaq.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ode Osbourne might have got into the UFC a little bit prematurely and got a very tough test for his debut just based off what he showed on Contender Series, that speed, that power, that athleticism. And I think they rushed him a little bit. Brian Kelleher is a guy who's got wins over Barral, got 2 wins over Julio Arce. Kelleher is a tough guy. I know you remember that Hunter Azure knockout. Hunter Azure was out on that canvas. So there's no shame in losing that fight, in my opinion, to Ode Osbourne. If you're going to take your first L in the UFC, I think that's respectable. Jerome Rivera, I don't think he sucks. Long, tall, flyweight, fighting at 45s. I just think that he lacks that fire. I think he hesitates. He second guesses himself. It's a mental thing. Look, Ode, yeah, he might not be all that good, but I think there's going to be some improvement. He's hungry coming off this 1-year layoff. Jerome Rivera just doesn't have that it. There's nothing great about his game. Even in that Figueiredo fight, there was moments where Figueiredo was starting to get a little tired and he could have possibly capitalized on some things, but then he, jumps guard and goes to his back and goes for leg locks. And it just, I just don't think this kid's ready for the UFC. I agree. So I'm going Ode Osbourne, whether it's a decision. We'll see how that cardio holds up, but I see him winning this fight.
Now, next up, also in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Timur Valiev, he's 16-3, and Martin the Spartan Day is 8-5. Currently, they got Timur Valiev. Depends where you look. I see minus 350 in one spot. I see minus 425, but around that range. And the comeback on Martin Day is everywhere from plus 260 to plus 320. So short notice fight for Martin Day. I mean, look, he's a Hawaiian warrior. I got to give him a lot of credit. He's not going to go down without a fight. He'll definitely go out on a shield. Decent striker. I think his takedown defense has been improving. But that being said, there's still certain elements to his game missing, and I think that's in the decision-making, the process, the fight IQ. I'm not sure it's quite there. And with Timur Valiev, when you talk about an upset, you talk about Timur Valiev's UFC debut. And I'm not just saying that because Timur was the favorite and Trevin Jones was the underdog. I'm saying it because you watch that fight and it's like clear as day that Timur Valiev was the better fighter. And if they were to rematch, which would never happen, but just saying, if they were to fight again, it's not a situation where I'd be like, hey, you know what? Maybe the line should have been flipped. It's a situation where I'd pick Timur Valiev again if they fought. So, man, I think, when you tee off on a guy to a point where, you fatigue yourself, that's something you can learn from in the gym, especially when you got a trainer like Mark Henry behind you. He's going to come back better. You've seen what he does after losses. Martin Day, much respect. And I think they'll give him another shot after this. I know it's going to be 4 straight L's, but do you remember when Russell Doan stepped up on short notice to fight Mirsad Bektik the same night that Dan Henderson fought Bisping the second time in the UK? So he stepped up on like a week or 2 short notice, got choked out in the first round. They gave him another opportunity versus Kwan Ho Kwok. So I think because Martin Day stepped up on short notice, take this L. We'll give you one more shot after this, but I'm going Timur Valiev. I think he's more dynamic. I think he's more well-rounded. I just think he's better. So I got Timur Valiev here, Shaq.
Well, actually, man, Martin Day, he made a post on his Instagram saying this is it. So it comes down to this fight, win or lose. He said on his Instagram, this is the last fight on the contract. This was the extra fight. They were going to cut him already. So, yeah, I got Valiev in this spot. I think that fight with Trevin Jones was just a case of he got gassed out trying to finish him. It happens. We've seen that happen several times in the UFC where guys have big first rounds and use all their energy trying to finish and have nothing left and get knocked out. You're more prone to getting knocked out when you're absolutely gassed. Shout out to Trevin Jones for for withstanding that beating. Let's just be honest, that fight could have got stopped in Timur's way a couple times, I thought. But Tyone was out there, and Tyone doesn't
money on the over.
Tyone lets you die in there. So I got Timur. I think you're going to see more of a Russian Coast style this fight. More volumes with the kicks. Keep it simple with the boxing. Day has dropped guys before. He did drop Davy Grant. And Timur is a little chinny, I guess. But I see him winning this fight by being safe, being smart. The Russian Coast, 30-27. I'll kick this guy, take him down when possible, clinch him, and I see him getting this one.
Now, also in the featherweight division, we got 3 straight featherweight fights. We got Youssef, the Moroccan Devil Zalal. He's 10-3. He's taking on Seung Choi, who's 8-3. Currently, they got Youssef Zalal -245. The comeback on Seung Choi is +205. So it initially opened -150 Zalal. Now it's almost -250. So it moved a full $1 in the direction of Zalal. A lot of faith in him. We successfully faded Zalal's last fight against Topuria. This is a different opponent here. But I got to say this about Choi, Shaq. I mean, you get the call that finally you're making your UFC debut. You've worked so hard for this opportunity. And they're like, hey, why don't you fight Movsar Evloev for your UFC debut? You know what I mean? And then right after that, it's like, here's Gavin Tucker. Gavin Tucker is now fighting Cub Swanson. So we had to fight 2 borderline top 15 guys in his first 2 fights. Then you put him in there with a lesser opponent in Stamann, and he handled him accordingly. I thought he beat the shit out of Stamann. And before someone says, well, Sodiq knocked out Stamann in the first round, and this guy went the distance with him. Look, Sodiq did get the stoppage. However, I mean, it's not like Stamann went out or anything. The ref kind of went in there and, said no more. It was a standing TKO. I think that Stamann is a very durable guy. That's the only thing he's got going for him. He's good at getting his ass whooped. So I'm not holding it against Choi that he won a 3-round decision. But that being said, Shaq, I did like the Anglin matchup a lot more for Choi. I thought Choi was going to whoop on Colin Anglin. This is a much tougher fight. So I agree with Youssef being favored. The question is, do you agree with him being favored to this extent?
Yeah, it's tough. Choi, like you said, he did have the 2 tough matchups right out the gates. No shame in losing those in hindsight. Fight with Stamann was good, but Sumann's a complete can. So it's tough to say. And he did get rocked in the 3rd round in that fight. I think Choi has some good physical attributes, range, length. I mean, physical technique in the technique, Muay Thai, kickboxing technique. I mean, he is solid 100%. And I disagree with this line a little bit. I think it should be a little closer. Zalal's tough, very good footwork, times the knees up the middle, but the knees aren't going to be here in this fight with Choi's height and his distance. It just comes down to a matter of toughness for Choi. Like, I know he's got the physical attributes, he's got the kickboxing, the grappling and clinch work needs some work, but he's not going up against a black belt Gavin Tucker or little Khabib Mavzar. So this is a fight that he should. This is a fight on his level. We can't forget that Youssef Zalal was on a winning streak, but in my opinion, before his last fight against Topuria, I said I consider that winning streak a little light in terms of. One of them was against a guy named Peter Barrett. If he's not cut, I'm sure he's going to get cut very soon. Austin Lingo, very, decent prospect, but Lingo only had like 4 or 5 fights, really hadn't seen against all cans up until that point. And Jordan Griffin, who, I mean, he's fighting for his job here, his next fight too. And so you get where I'm trying to go. I consider the winning streak a little light. I think if Choi is tough and after this year off, he's a little more confident, I do think this can be a live fight, man. I agree with Zalal being favored. He's beaten more legit guys, 100%. Jordan Griffin, even though I just said what I said, he is a decent, better than anyone Choi's beaten. So I'll pick Zalal, but from a betting perspective, I think it's Choi or pass. I think you got to be looking on that side a little more with his physical attributes, his kickboxing, and the fact that he's not going to be having to stuff takedowns against the fence against elite level scramblers like Mavzar, Gavin Tucker. I mean, we just saw what he did his last fight to Billy Q. I was like, damn, Gavin's no slouch. So I'll take Zalal by split decision, very close. I still have concerns about Choi's toughness. if he gets put on those spots against the fence, will he fold and get held against the fence? He struggles to get out the clinch, but we'll see, man. I think it's a dog or pass situation, though.
So this is an interesting comment. They can't ever seem to get Zalal's odds right. And that's an interesting point because, I mean, the Austin Lingo fight, Austin Lingo was minus 500 in the opener against Zalal. The Jordan Griffin fight, they had it a pick 'em. I thought Zalal clearly won. The Barrett fight, they got that line right. Minus 320 Zalal. That was perfect. Then minus 270 Zalal against Topuria. That was a bit of a stretch, as you saw. Now here again. Now, this time, I agree with the opener. Open minus 150 Zalal. Look, if it's a pick'em fight, I'm leaning towards Zalal. It's just when you're talking about, a full extra dollar of value on Choi, now I'm kind of interested. Now it is a dog or pass situation. And I know that, the criticism we have for Choi is his takedown defense, but the reality is, if you look at the numbers, man, he stuffed 11 takedowns versus Valiev, and he stuffed 8 takedowns versus Gavin Tucker. So he did get taken down a good bit of time. He also stuffed a bit of takedowns too. I think his initial takedown defense is pretty damn good, and I think that those guys are much better than Zalal. So I see it being a close split decision type fight. So that being said, it's a dog or pass situation. I'll roll with Choi, but realistically, I don't think he's going to come out here and dominate. I think it's going to be a very close fight that could go either way. But since I view it as that kind of fight, I'll go with Choi here. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got Molly McCann. She's 10-3, and Lara Procopio is 6-1. Currently, they got Molly McCann minus 145. The comeback on Lara Procopio is plus 125. So, Shaq, Molly opened minus 400. Now, interestingly enough, she opened minus 300 the last fight against Tyla. So, a lot of, the odds makers love Molly, and I'm a fan of Molly too. I mean, I know you remember when she cashed that underdog play against Lipsky for you. We were in person for that fight, and I think she's been making a lot of progress. I like her game a lot. The question is, how good is Procopio actually? I hear she's a Nova União black belt. Now, let me ask you this, because I haven't really seen much of her jiu-jitsu to be like, oh, this is some Mackenzie Dern or some high-level black belt. But if you're a black belt from Nova, doesn't that mean that she got her black belt under Andre Pederneiras, or is it someone else?
Yeah, not only is she a jiu-jitsu black belt or judo black belt as well, but I think that's a common thing for girls in that country, Brazil. Let's just be honest there. They're all judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts. So am I lying?
The thing is, under Pederneiras, like that's the guy that gave Aldo as black belt, Barral, Leo Santos, all these guys.
He gave Poliana Botello one too. So,
are you serious? She's a black belt?
Nah, just kidding. But it just depends. Yeah, Procopio. She's a little bit of a mystery to me. Because she didn't look bad against Karol Rosa. The volume was definitely there. She stood in the pocket, and Rosa's a big 35er, so she was outsized by a lot in that fight, and she held her own. In my opinion, it was a very good showing. She did have a little USADA hiccup. That's why she's been out for that was that card. The last time she fought was a long time ago. So, but yeah, McCann's got the better hands. My concern with Molly is she does struggle against these, Brazilian black belts sometimes. She lost to Vanessa Melo back in the day. She lost to Tyla Santos her last fight. Priscilla, she did get the win. That fight was in England. She looked good in that fight. Lipsky's half Brazilian. She's half Polish as well. But man, it's a tough fight because I could see Procopio. I don't know if she really is this credential Nova União black belt, judo black belt, then it might be a tough fight for McCann. She has struggled with that in the past. But if this fight stays on the feet, you got to favor Molly McCann. I don't know, though. Procopio's a little bit of a mystery to me. I'm going to pick McCann. I think she's going to land the harder shots. Karol Rosa did drop Procopio her last fight. And Tyla Santos, turns out Tyla Santos might actually be who we thought she was going to be. She's been, her last 2 fights, she hasn't lost a minute of those fights. She's been looking really good since that fight against Mary Barella. So I'm a go with Molly. I'm not ready to. I know she's Procopio's a very popular pick this week, just because McCann did let a lot of people down against Tyla, but I'm not ready to say she's necessarily dropping 2 in a row yet.
I mean, this ain't Tyla, first of all. And secondly, while there might be a chance that Procopio is this black belt whiz that we haven't seen yet, maybe that's the case because, again, you get a black belt under Andre Pederneiras, and I respect that a lot. I just haven't seen it translate to MMA yet, Shaq, man. I mean, like, and I'll be 100% honest, not to discredit her performance against Rosa, which I felt like was a great fight. But I don't really know if I believe the numbers that they're trying to say. You know, they're saying that she went out there, landed 165 strikes against Karol Rosa. I'm not sure I buy that, Shaq.
And you got to understand as well, Rosa comes from that camp. They like eating shots. So that Andrade camp, they that's what they do. You know, that's what they do in practice. They just stand there and brawl. So
Yeah, I mean, look, you're right. Rosa does eat a lot of shots. I just thought that number might have been a little like it was like that one fight between Jonathan Martinez and Frankie Saenz where they said in one of the rounds that Frankie Saenz outstruck him 22 to like 7. And it was like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Martinez has been whooping his ass pillar to post. Like I saw Procopio get dropped in that fight. I was surprised it was a split decision. So look, I know people have the recency bias against McCann because she cost a lot of people in the Tyla fight. But again, this is not Tyla. Every fight is different. I think this is a winnable fight for Molly McCann. And she kind of reminds me of like a female version, a UK female version of one of the co-main event fighters, Frankie Edgar. She's got that good boxing volume style. She can now mix in takedowns too. If your takedown defense ain't on point, Molly McCann will pick you up and slam you. It's just she's got to be careful on these transitions on the mat. But I think if she's on her A game, if she comes in here and shows up, and I actually thought she showed up versus Tyla, just Tyla's better than her everywhere. It's just outgunned her. I don't think that's going to be the case here, man. I'm going Molly McCann via unanimous decision. Now, speaking of the devil, next up in the bantamweight division, we got Karol Rosa. She's 13-3. She's taking on Joselyne Edwards, La Pantera. She's 10-2. Currently, they got Karol Rosa minus 245. The comeback on Joselyne Edwards is plus 205. So I guess I got to know, how high are you on Rosa? Because look, I know DraftKings players fucking love Rosa. She comes out there, her first 2 UFC fights, lands way over 100 significant strikes in both, gets over 100 points in both. But Shaq, this is no longer a 5'3", Vanessa Mello and Procopio. This is actually, Joselyne's actually bigger than Karol Rosa. And the biggest issue that Joselyne has is on the mat. Her wrestling definitely ain't the best, but Karol likes to bang with everyone. So, I mean, do you agree with Karol Rosa like being a minus 245 favorite? Do you see her as this emerging prospect, or do you think this fight should be lined closer?
Yeah, it was very unfortunate because I was looking to bet Rosa against the former champion Montano. It's unfortunate Nico pulled out once again. So yeah, Edwards step in. I've had my eye on Edwards for a while. She fought Alpar and LFA for the title. She lost. Her grappling definitely was terrible. Clinch work terrible. Striking was on point. Just like you said, it's not Vanessa Mello and who's the other girl she fought? And Procopio. It's definitely Yana and Wu. And in my opinion, yeah, Edwards did look good, but Yana and Wu, in my opinion, doesn't belong in the UFC. She's just harmless, in my opinion. And I do agree with Karol Rosa being this size favorite, at least 2-1. What is it now? Minus 250, somewhere like that. Maybe that is at the threshold, but I see her winning this fight. I see her being the much more well-rounded fighter. I think Edwards has a very bright future ahead of her, but Karol Rosa did show she can mix in the takedowns her last fight against Vanessa Mello and do work with the ground and pound. And out of all the girls from that camp, I feel like she mixes it, at least has more weapons than just the hands. That inside low kick she got is money. And I know Edwards is a kickboxer herself from Panama, but I see there being a big edge when they tie up and get in the clinch and on the ground. I see Karol Rosa probably just having her way with her. Yan and Wu took her down. There were some scrambles where Yan and Wu just got reversed, and Yan and Wu got beat up by Gina Mazzani. So it kind of really enough said, and lost to Mizuki Inoue, who was a straw weight. So Yan and Wu doesn't belong here. Joselyne Edwards has a bright future, but I think this is just a slight too much of a step up in competition. Karol Rosa, she has had her issues on the ground, but she's fighting a striker now. So I think that she's going to be the more well-rounded fighter here and get the win.
Real quick, before I give my breakdown of this fight, I just want to tell all our fans, our listeners to please give us a like and a subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. Now, Shaq, obviously, I love the fact that Karol Rosa can land that volume, and it wasn't a one-time thing. She did it twice in a row, even landed takedowns, like you said, and that's going to be important here because Joselyne Edwards, look, she's big for the weight class, and she's one of these violent girls, man. You saw her last fight before her UFC debut, that finish she had. She comes to fight. I like her a lot, and I think she can develop into something down the line. It's just that scene she comes from in Central America, right? Not South America, Central America, I believe. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. It's Panama. I haven't taken a geography class in like 20 years, but basically, I think down the line she's going to project to be good. It's just that there's a lot of holes in her game that I think Karol is, developed enough to the point where she can exploit those holes, like taking her down to the mat, stalling this one out, and not letting her, reverse position or anything like that. But I also think Karol Rosa can hang perfectly fine on the feet. You saw the kind of output she brings to the table, and her durability is on point too. The times that she's lost, she's gotten, caught with some submissions, and I think that not only has she been patching up that part of her game, but Joselyne Edwards doesn't bring that threat to the table. So I respect La Pantera. I think she's gonna have a bright future. I think she'll go on to win some more fights down the line. Just not this one. I'm gonna go with Karol Rosa to get it done, most likely via decision. Now, next up, we got an 160-pound catchweight between Justin, the Guitar Hero Jaynes, he's 16-6, and Devonte King Cage Smith is 10-2. Currently, they got Devonte Smith minus 300. The comeback on Justin Jaynes is plus 250. So, Shaq, not only did you bet on Gabriel Mowgli Benitez his last fight, you also said, look, I respect Justin Jaynes, but I think he might not belong at this level. Well, listen, Devonte Smith, one of the most promising prospects at one point, had a big setback, cost a lot of people a lot of money as a minus 1,000 favorite in 2019. That was a long time ago. It's 2021 now. You think Devonte Smith is going to get back on track here, use those calf kicks, and time that money right hand?
I do. I do believe so. Justin Jaynes, very exciting guy, comes out. Let me take that back. I think he's UFC level for about 3 to 5 minutes. Once you get to the second round, he just seems to fall apart. His fight with Gavin Tucker, he looked good in the first drop, Gavin. But after that, he just got tired to a point where he couldn't even throw a punch. He couldn't even lift his hands up. So that was kind of alarming. Mowgli Benitez, no shame in that. I think both those guys are better than Devonte. And Devonte, we can't forget, he's come a long way because, I don't know, I took a look at some of those old Ohio fights back in the day when he was at Stipe's, and he's come a long way because, I mean, we can't forget he's got a loss to John Gunther. I don't know if you guys know my boy John the Machine Gunther, but
the alpaca shearer.
The alpaca shearer. Shout out to John. He actually got cut, but he defended one Davi Ramos choke. I gotta give him props for that. But I see Devonte winning this fight. There's just too many things going in his favor. Jaynes didn't have a training camp. I think as long as he doesn't stand there and isn't, I think his last fight against Kama Worthy, he was just looking like a deer in the headlights. I don't know what happened in the gym when him and Kama Worthy trained, but something had to happen because he just looked like a deer in headlights out there, was touching gloves and shaking hands in the middle of a fight. Maybe that switch up just threw him off mentally. I think that was maybe his second or third opponent. Was supposed to fight John McDessie, I believe. But we know John McDessie likes to hide occasionally. So I think he's gonna win this fight as long as he extends Justin Jaynes, doesn't stand there like he did his last fight, actually move, throw the calf kick. Once he gets to the second round, this will be smooth sailing. Of course, just like I said, Jaynes does come heavy in those first few minutes, does throw big bombs, but this ain't Frank Camacho. Frank Camacho's about to be on his way out of here as well. So I got Devonte Smith.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Listen, Devonte Smith's got a very good calf kick game, and his game is pretty simple. I mean, he's not going to come out here and throw something that's going to surprise us. We know Devonte Smith's game. It all revolves around that 1-2. He's got a beautiful right hand that he uses to end a lot of his fights. He chops dudes down with calf kicks. He finds his range with that jab. And once he does, bodies tend to hit the floor. Now, I feel you, man. I don't know what happened between him and Kama Worthy. And I wish, well, let me say this. Firstly, Kama Worthy, I know he's been knocked out a lot, but he's huge. I know he somehow used to fight at 45. I don't fucking know how. He's big for 55, and he's just a big boy with a big reach, whereas Justin Jaynes on the shorter side probably belongs at featherweight. But I'm glad you brought up that Makdessi fight. I'm really fucking glad you brought that up, man, because God, I really wish Devonte Smith got to fight John Makdessi. But you heard who Makdessi's fighting, right? He's fighting Bilal's prodigy. What's the kid's name? Ignacio Brajamundes, I think his name is. Ignacio, the kid on Contender Series.
The Mexican kid.
The striker, yeah, that kid. He's fighting John Makdessi.
Oh, yeah. I like
you
that.
Know what time it is,
Shaq. By the way, you know Makdessi. You know Makdessi won't fight him, right? He's pulling out of that.
You think he's pulling out? Yeah. You know, kind of like you think he's going to pull a Nico Montano? 2 weeks after the fight gets announced, cut. So
yeah, no, probably a week out or a week or two out. Just nah.
Yeah, definitely. Someone brought up a good point. KD says a torn Achilles is a hell of a thing to come back from. Yeah, Smith's he dealt with a torn Achilles or a ruptured Achilles. I don't fucking know. I'm not a doctor. I just know he was in a boot for a long ass time. And not only that, man, he dealt with some personal shit outside the cage as well. So, our heart goes out to Smith for everything he's dealt with. But I think it's bounce back season, man. I mean, listen. Ryan Jaynes, just like we know what Smith's going to do, we know what Ryan Jaynes is going to do. He's going to come out here. He's going to try to throw big bombs. He's going to try to knock out Devonte Smith. Ryan Jaynes has won 8 of his 16 wins via first-round knockout. So he's got a puncher's chance, no doubt about it. But there's an 8-inch reach advantage here for Devonte Smith, and his game revolves around his length. His game revolves around the jab, the calf kicks, the straight right. And having that size advantage is going to aid him here. He didn't have no 8-inch reach advantage over Kama Worthy, my man. So yeah, I got Devonte Smith here, second round knockout, weather this early storm, and you win the fight.
Shout out to Ryan Jaynes. I think you meant to say Justin, but you remember my boy Ryan Jaynes.
Oh, my bad. Did I say that? That's fucking hilarious. Yeah, shout out to Ryan Jaynes. Remember when he knocked out Andrew Sanchez?
No, he retired after that, man.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of those dudes. He was like one of those scarecrow dudes that could eat your cleanest shot and just keep coming forward. It was crazy. It was scary, man. Wouldn't want to see that guy on Halloween in a back alley. But Shaq, next up in the 205-pound division, we got slow Mike Rodriguez. He's 11-5, and he's taking on slow Danilo Marques, who's 10-2. We're just gonna call them both slow. Currently, they got Mike Rodriguez minus 235. The comeback on Danilo Marques is plus 195. Shaq, look. Same with Khalil Roundtree. I feel like Mike Rodriguez falls right in that category. The guy's so talented. The guy's a great athlete. His striking can be so damn good. It's just there's something missing in the mental department. There's something missing with the ground game. If he doesn't get first-round knockouts, he tends to fold. It's a really sad situation because, in my opinion, Shaq, I think he should be 6-0 in the UFC. But I thought he should have beat Devin Clark. I've never been high on Clark. I thought he should have beat John Alon. I thought he should have beat Dawoon Jung. I thought he should have beat Ed Herman. And before someone says, oh, he did knock out Ed Herman, listen, I do blame the ref. And the ref fucked that up, no doubt about it. But listen, you're not going to get a disagreement with me about the ref. We all agree the ref fucked up. Let's put that on the side. That doesn't change the fact that Mike Rodriguez pulled one of the most epic stunts that we have ever seen in all our years watching this sport. Like, just because you finished Ed Herman once, the ref steps in, calls it a nut shot, go finish him again. Instead, Rodriguez, you saw what happened, got taken down, got submitted with a Kimura. Same Kimura that Jacare hit on Ed Herman back in Strikeforce, by the way. But I wish I could trust Mike. I mean, I think Mike, at his best, knocks out Marques in the first round, maybe even knocks him out on a takedown attempt, elbows, the Travis Brown bows, something like that, or he's so much faster, he's so much better. It's just that what's going to happen when Danilo Marques gets this single leg and takes his back? Then what? You know what I mean? So, I think my boy Brian Jaynes has said it well, another Emrod stun of the year. Look, I agree with Emrod being favored. Emrod should knock this guy out in the first round. And if he does, I won't be surprised. It's just, I also thought he should have knocked out Devin Clark in the first round. I also thought he should have knocked out John Alana in the first round. I also thought he should have knocked out Ed Herman in the first round. So I'm done with Roundtree. I'm done with Rodriguez. I'll just enjoy them fight. I'll go Danilo Marques via first round submission.
Yeah, man. I thought you would take Rodriguez because I'm done with Rodriguez, man. I gave him, first it was the John Alon where he was like minus 400. John Alon lost to Vinicius Moreira, and John Alon was out here taking this guy down and breaking him in the late rounds. Then Dao Un Jung, who couldn't even beat Sam Alvey. I'm just kidding. Who couldn't even beat Sam Alvey. Shout out to facts. Sam Alvey. He's got to, he didn't beat him. Goes out there and starches him in less than a couple minutes. Then we fast forward that to Ed Herman, and yeah, look, Tyone messed up, and Tyone messes up a lot. But it's all on Mike. If you can't control that situation and just ride a minute out on top to victory while you're beating Ed's been nearly finished a couple times, been hit with elbows, but every time he tries to finish, he backs off. I think it's a mental thing. And like you said, it's been happening not once, not twice, not 3 times. I mean, it's a continual thing. I just don't think he has it in him at this point. Danilo Marques, look, yeah, he is slow, and Mike, he might accidentally knock him out. And when I say accidentally knock him out, is he might counter with a straight left, and his head might be there, and he might go down. But other than that, Danilo Marques seems to be the much more aggressive guy. And yeah, Ibrahimov is a jobber, and I'm sure he's probably cut already. But one thing I did like about that fight was them single legs. That drop down single he had, that was nice. That looked like a Brazilian Chris Weidman out there, in my opinion, with that single leg. And he hopped on that back very quick. And we're talking about a 6'6" guy who's taller than Mike Rodriguez. I wouldn't be shocked if he got on that back and maybe not submitted him, but absolutely drained him and just started slowly mentally breaking him for the later rounds. I like the way he sucked it up. I know Ibrahimov is a gasser, and so definitely have to take that into account. But I think this line should be closer. How many times? Like that was the biggest stunt. I honestly think that was a bigger stunt than what Hardy pulled. I think that was a bigger stunt than what Sarah McMahon just pulled. Was it last week or a couple of weeks ago? Yeah. I mean, that was that was bad. Like he literally, I mean, Ed's completely beaten up and literally yanks that Kimura, and reverses you, and it's over. Like that was sad. Mike Rodriguez, I don't think we should. I mean, look, I feel sorry for the guy because yeah, he did technically TKO him, but we know what happens when we get in there. All type of BS could ensue possibly. I mean. Herb Dean let Ribas get knocked out twice. Tyone can't get shit right. Herzog, we never know what he's going to do. Chris Lee, I mean, it's crazy out there in Vegas. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So we know things are crazy out there. But I'm going with Danilo Marques by decision. I think he's going to just get these single legs and drain Mike and just stay on to him like glue. And I just think this line's completely off. How many more times do we have to see? I know Danilo didn't look the best, but before that, I believe he was inactive for like a while, maybe like a couple of years, maybe even more than a couple of years. So we'll see what happens. And he's training at Kings now too, so we'll see.
I mean, Master Rafael Cordero watched the footage on Rodriguez and was like, "Hey, Danilo, just take this guy down. Like, make this easy for yourself.
Let's just grab the single leg, buddy."
Yeah. So let's see what happens. I mean, look, it's not going to surprise me if Rodriguez knocks him out. I know how talented Rodriguez is. This is not a surprise to me, but I also know what happens when he goes past round 1. And I also know what kind of stunt puller he is. And I also know what happens when someone takes his back. So I think there's a dog or pass situation. Let's see what happens. Now, next up, we got the main card. We got a rematch 6 years in the making, Shaq, between Carlos Diego Ferreira. He's 17-2, and Beneil Benny Dariush is 19-4. Currently, they got, dead pick'em, -110 Dariush, -110 Ferreira. So the first fight, I got to tell you, was no pick'em. It was 30-27 Dariush across the board. And not only that, Shaq, the fight was in Brazil, of all places. So Benny goes down to Brazil, beats Diego there. But listen, since that point, both these guys, they know what the ups and the downs are like of this sport, and they've rebounded nicely. And I know we can say that Benny reinvented himself, but I got to kind of preface that by saying, because reinventing yourself kind of implies that maybe he wasn't good at one point, but Benny's always been a badass. Like, I know I always talk about this every Benny fight, but I considered Benny to be number 5 in the world in 2016 when he beat Michael Johnson. Johnson was the number 5 guy in the world. You beat the number 5 guy, you are the number 5 guy. So to me, he reached those kind of heights. He knows what it's like to be in the top 5. Then he had that 3-fight winless streak where it seemed like, man, because the way Benny fights, Benny fights like a man. And when I say fights like a man, I just mean, he puts his balls on the line every single time he fights. Benny is a violence fighter. It's funny because you hear the guy talk. He's like the nicest guy ever. But when you have a 20-fight UFC sample size or whatever the number is, and you fight the way Benny fights, not every fight is going to go your way. I mean, this is not a guy that plays it safe, man. This is a guy that's kill or be killed. So the fact that he's had the kind of longevity he has, and now he's making another run, he picked himself back up. I got nothing but respect for him. And same for Diego, the way he's evolved his boxing. Look, he always hit hard. He's always had that amazing jiu-jitsu as well. But now he's going out there outpointing or outstriking guys like Taisumov on the feet, destroying Anthony Pettis, beat Rustam Khabilov. So I got so much respect for both these guys. And now I think that the line is appropriate at a pick'em. That's where I had it. So I was initially going with Dariush because he was the dog. And I thought that it should have been a pick'em. Now it is a pick'em where it should be in my eyes. I'm gonna still go with Dariush. Listen, I know there's a chance he can get caught the way he fights. There's a chance Diego can get caught too. But one thing I want to bring up is that Rustam fight. So Diego did give up some takedowns there, but Rustam's kind of a meathead wrestler where he's not known for his jiu-jitsu. He's just known for his sambo, his wrestling, whereas Beneil, when he gets on top, he knows the proper positioning. He's not going to be out here giving up positions. I mean, I know you can bring up that Mike Chiesa fight, but I think Benny was on a big win streak. I think he was cocky. I think people at 155 kind of viewed Chiesa as a joke back then. I mean, you saw Anthony Pettis have all this inconsistency, and then he looks like a world champion against Chiesa. So Chiesa did the right call moving up to 70, and I think that he kind of caught Benny by surprise, taking his back. I think Benny was like, wait, in training camp, he was probably like, there's no chance in hell Chiesa takes my back. I'm fucking Beneil Dariush. I'm the guy that grappled Crone Gracie back in the day. So I think he was kind of, he was beating up Chiesa. He got cocky. He got caught. Whereas in this fight in the training camp, it's like, hey, we don't want to let a third-degree black belt like Diego take our back, because if he does, it doesn't matter how good I am. This guy is one of the best on planet Earth. So I think he's ready for that area of the game. It's really, to me, about not getting knocked out. So I'm going to go with Beneil here via decision. I think he can mix in takedowns, avoid the submission, and land some hard shots standing too. So I'll go Beneil here.
Yeah, man, this is a great matchup because Dariush on that 3-fight winless streak, that Dunham fight, that was kind of a low point. Then the Hernandez fight, and the way he's rebounded since it. I mean, he's been out here, having spectacular spinning back fist KOs and knocking out close stiff, and the Camacho fight, I mean, absolutely ran through him. Thiago Moises is looking good these days, absolutely whipped his ass. So Beneil Dariush, man, he should have been in the talks for comeback fighter of the year, in my opinion, last year. Because at one point I think we all thought he was done after that Alexander Hernandez fight. Carlos Diego Ferreira, my goodness, man, this dude, in my opinion, I don't want to say the dark horse at 155 because I do have respect for Dariush, but when I look at since that fight, and I really kind of almost like the Dustin Conner fight, I don't want to say I completely disregard that fight, but like Carlos Diego back then, man, it's just both of them, but just more so Carlos Diego, in my opinion, is just a completely different fighter. The boxing, the footwork, the cardio, and the wrestling and the grappling. He doesn't make those mistakes that he once did. When dudes try to grapple him, it gets reversed easily. And Dariush, I think what he's done on the streak is very nice, but I still see signs of him tiring out in some of these fights. Even, and one thing I want to say about this streak is, I'm not convinced that even before, his tough times that he wouldn't have not beaten all of these guys. Scott Holtzman, I like the guy, but we can't forget he lost the fight to Nick Lentz. He got dropped by Dong Yan Ma because I remember I bet on Hot Sauce. And, I feel like these guys kind of fought like meatheads. Drew Dober had his opportunities to clip Dariush's chin, but he kept hanging around in the clinch. Frank Camacho, like I mentioned earlier, is on his way out, and I hate to discredit those wins. And the Jakar close fight, yeah, I know it's viewed as this big comeback, but he did win the first round easily, Dariush, with the back control. And, I mean, he still almost got knocked out. So I just feel like Carlos Diego has been having way cleaner performances, even though Dariush, these finishes are spectacular. I feel like Carlos Diego has been absolutely dominating these guys that, Rustam Khabilov, yeah, he's kind of, was kind of washed out a little bit. But, I mean, just look at that record, and nobody beats him on European turf. And Carlos Diego went out there and whooped his ass like it was. I mean, that fight wasn't close. I had it 30-27. I forget what the scorecards were. But, I mean, Rustam, his shots were stuffed easily in reverse, almost choked out. Then you go to Mairbek Taisumov, this mythical creature, Taisumov. Oh my God, he's gonna be the future world champion. Diego Ferreira retired that guy. I don't even know if Taisumov's coming back. That's how bad that ass whooping got, man. Diego Ferreira's footwork, his pressure, and I just feel like he has much more tighter defense boxing wise than Dariush, much more volume. Dariush has the edge and the firepower with the one shots and the left kick 100%. But man, I see if Diego stays on him with that footwork and doesn't fight recklessly and just pick your shots the way you've been doing with these. I mean, just look at the way he fought Pettis. I know Pettis is also a little bit washed out, but I mean, there was no sketchy moments in that fight at all. I mean, that was clean. That's what you call clean work right there, man. So I see Diego Ferreira. I got respect for Dariush, man, but I think I see Diego Ferreira as somewhat of a little bit of a dark horse at 155. I think that he's got the volume, the footwork, the pressure, cardio, grappling. I think he just needs to avoid that big left kick from Dariush, the big shots, the spectacular big moves that he has. I don't see Dariush grappling him, man. I really don't. I think the guys that he's been fighting are just kind of meatheads. No offense to those guys, Holtzman, Camacho, and these guys that he's been in close, these guys that he's been fighting. But man, I just feel like Diego Ferreira has made more improvements and is just a better fighter at this point. So I'm going Diego Ferreira to win the last 2 rounds very decisively.
Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got Cody Stamann. He's 19-3, and Askar is 11-1, and not to be confused with Askar, the flyweight contender. This is someone else. Cody Stamann's currently minus 485. The comeback on Askar is plus 385. So, man, making your UFC debut on short notice against Cody Stamann, So I'll say this: at least Cody isn't like known for knocking dudes the fuck out or choking dudes out in the first round. So it might not be brutal, but at the same time, Cody's such a winner. He's one of these guys that doesn't take any unnecessary risks. He's so disciplined with his striking. When he gets on top of you, you probably don't get back up. His takedown defense is seriously on point. I mean, you watch that fight against Brian Caraway when Brian Caraway lifted his leg up above his head and Stamann was still balancing. It was like that first BJ Penn versus Matt Hughes fight, like insane. It was like last week with Tavares and Shoeface, like insane takedown defense by Cody Stamann. So here with Askar, look, I like the guy. He's Palestinian, so that means he fights with a lot of spirit. He's 11-1. That's a good record. He's decently well-rounded, comes from Chicago, so he's probably friends with my boy Bilal Muhammad. So I like Askar. I think he'll win some UFC fights, but man, to take a UFC debut on short notice, and you consider the kind of competition Askar's been fighting outside the UFC, and it's like, hey, here's Cody Stamann. I mean, this is really, it's all about Cody Stamann not doing anything stupid. Like, Cody was talking about coming out here and finishing this fight, which I think he can do, but it's like, Cody, you're not really known for finishing too many fights. You're mostly known for dominating guys, winning decisions. Like, let's not fight uncharacteristic. So as long as Cody doesn't take too many unnecessary risks and leave himself open or something like that, which I don't see happening. I mean, it was Askar who was knocked out one fight ago by a 6-2 guy, Shaq. So I got to go Stamann here. I think he has another dominant performance. I think he definitely exceeds his price tag. I think if he looked better as Jimmy, he'd be an even bigger favorite here. Like, if he was just coming off the Kelleher fight and the Jimmy fight had never happened, Cody might be minus 1,000 here. Same thing with Timur Valiev. If he had not come off that Trevin Jones fight and he was just making his UFC debut against Day, he'd be minus 1,000 here too. So I got Cody Stamann, my man. It's just about, do you think he gets his first UFC finish or not?
Yeah, he says that finish thing all the time, so I wouldn't put any stock in that. Cody's a point fighter, one of the best point fighters, just a technical guy, like you said, not going to take any risk, going to keep things very simple with the hands, dump him when he can, stay on top. Cody's well-rounded. He's gonna get the job done here. I like this guy, but he's in way over his head. Cody, it should be a nice little 30-27, maybe a 26. Once Cody gets in there, he'll realize, okay, I can't lose to this guy. Let me just, have my typical Cody Stamann decision.
Now we got to talk about the last 4 fights of the night. And next up, we got Pantoja and Kape. And before we talk about that, I got to let all our fans know to do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You help out the channel tremendously. We truly appreciate it. So next up in the flyweight division, we got Alexandre the Cannibal Pantoja. He's 22-5, and he's welcoming Manel Kape to the UFC, who's 15-4. I thought it was Kape, but it turns out it's Kape. So you think currently they got Alexandre Pantoja -115. The comeback on Manel no Kape is -105. Shaq, look, I like Manel Kape a lot. I mean, he's a serious knockout artist, and actually you hear about his family lineage. Apparently his dad was some beast boxer back in the day. So I like this guy. Knocks people out. He's brutal. He's resilient. I mean, I remember when he lost to Kai Asakura, and he comes back in the rematch, knocks him unconscious. So he's a guy I got a tremendous amount of respect for, but you know how much respect we have for Pantoja. And here's the thing with this fight. It's really all about Pantoja's approach here, because if Pantoja accepts the fact that, hey, I'm this serious jiu-jitsu black belt and I have such an advantage on the mat over this guy, let's go ahead and take this to the mat, take his back, and finish the fight shortly after. It's just that it's not always that simple with Pantoja. He loves to brawl. And if he decides to brawl in this matchup, Shaq, I think he might get knocked out for the first time. I think those last 3 fights, we've been seeing Pantoja not look as good as he normally does. But that being said, can you please, like Alexandre, can you just take this guy down where you have a massive advantage? 2 years ago, I saw Oka Sasaki dominate Kape on the mat for 3 straight rounds like it was nothing. I mean, Sasaki was the guy. I mean, we can talk about Pantoja finishing Sasaki in the first round, but I don't care about MMA math. I'm just bringing up the point that Sasaki was the guy that couldn't hang in the UFC. Sasaki was the guy that barely won fights in the UFC, and he goes out there, dominates Kape for 3 straight rounds. So I know Kape has gotten better. I know he's got knockout potential. It's just I cannot ignore the big difference on the mat here. So I'm going to have to go Pantoja to get this down to the mat, get a submission. But, Shaq, if he decides to bang with Kape, there's a chance he gets knocked out for the first time in his UFC career.
Yeah, this is a good fight. This is an interesting fight because...
What up? We lost you. Well, there you are.
Oh.
I see you now.
You see me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see myself though, but all right, whatever. Yeah, this is an interesting fight, man, because Manel Kape, like you said, these last 3 fights he has looked really good, because I'll tell you what, the previous fights.
Well, it looks like we just lost Shaq, but it's okay. He'll probably join back here in a second. I'm very curious to hear his take on this fight here with Manel Kape and Alexandre Pantoja. Why don't y'all let me know who y'all got in the fight? Because again, can Pantoja win one of these exciting brawls he's been having with these other guys? Like, I personally don't think so. I think that's going to be kind of tough to do against Kape, because what Kape is known for is he doesn't just knock guys out. He deads guys with one big shot. I mean, you watch that Kai Asakura fight. You see what he did to Takeya Mizugaki. You see what he did to these other guys on that Japanese scene. It's just the thing is, guys, that, the ref doesn't have an earpiece here. Manel can't wear tennis shoes anymore. This is not in a ring anymore. This is in the octagon. So there's a lot of changes. It's just, man, I wish Pantoja didn't eat so many clean shots. That's why, I'm kind of hesitant. Like, I think he should be the favorite. It's just that I know that if Pantoja tries to bang with a guy like Manel Kape, that he's going to potentially get clipped. So that's my biggest concern here. Let me see what y'all are saying. So MVS Burner says Pantoja. Mike says Kape based on line movement. So let me ask you this, Mike. So based on line movement, so you agree with the public action? is what you're saying. You think that because the public moved the line, that's the right side. Interesting. Let's see. Snacks says Kape, it's in his blood. You know, his dad was a fucking badass boxer apparently back in the day. I didn't know that was the case. I mean, I don't know his dad's name, but apparently that's the word on the street. 420 says Kape was crucifixed by Sasaki. Pantoja ran through Sasaki and treated him like the fraud that he is. Yeah, I mean, that's facts. I know MMA math, you know, doesn't really mean shit, but that is factual, everything you said. So Aldo Estrada says 50-50 and DK straight up bet on Pantoja. Yeah, and the only thing, man, is I got to say, make sure you wait because all this action's coming in on Kape. So, I mean, you can get a better line on Pantoja if you wait. 420 says the return of Shaq will be legendary. I know. I'm anticipating it as well. I think he's coming back in right now. Let's see. What up, bro? You back?
Yo, my bad. Lost connection there for a sec.
Oh, it's all good, bro. Hey, so tell me who you got in this Kape. Yeah, I can hear you fine. Tell me who you got in this Kape and Pantoja fight.
Hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? Well, shit.
No, I can hear you now. All right. Yeah, I can hear you now.
So Kape and Pantoja.
Right. Yeah, so yeah, Manel Kape, like you said, these last 3 fights, he's been looking really good. Very improvements. I noticed Mike Swick is with him. I think he's with AKA now. So he switched camps because his previous 3 fights, yikes. Like you said, Sasaki took his back, dominated him 20. I not believe the what's the guy's name you mentioned him earlier? He knocked him out in the rematch. That fight, which he lost. And then there was another fight too that he lost. So he had a bad stretch, but I feel like he was kind of misguided. He is from Angola, a small country. There was a cornerman that he had that I really didn't like. It was one of those bad cornermen that you're like, Manel, you need to get away from this guy because he's just saying crazy things. Him and Mike Brown actually got into it during the fight when he fought Horiguchi. It was actually pretty funny. So, but yeah, I think Pantoja, look, he's got a big grappling edge here, and he needs to stay on Kape because Kape's one of the bigger flyweights that I've seen. He's going to be dropping down to 25s for the first time in a long time. So let's see how this weight cut goes. But if he makes this weight successfully, I see a bright future for this guy, Kape. It's just that I still question the level of competition, even on those last 3 wins. Although he looked good, we're talking about Takeya Mizugaki, who, let's just be honest, Daniel, towards the end of his career, everybody knocks out Takeya Mizugaki. But I mean, you remember that fight he had with George Roop? It was so bad that they cut him after it. Then he fought the rematch, and Manel Kape is a lot better than those guys, a much better athlete. Now, Pantoja, let's just be honest here, he only lost to undefeated Askarov, who Brandon, the assassin baby, couldn't even beat in his home country of Mexico. Look, I know most people think Moreno won that fight, but the facts are the facts. His own country's judges did not score the fight for him. So, look, Askarov's undefeated, and in my opinion, the number 1 contender at flyweight, about to fight Benavidez. His other loss was to Davison Dusta-Geha Figueiredo. Yeah, he lost every round, but it was a very good fight. A part of me still feels like this is a little too much of a step up in competition, and a lot of times, Daniel, we try to find the next best thing. Manel Kape's new, he's fresh. We've been wanting him in the UFC for a while, and everyone I see he's a popular pick this week, and we're just going to disregard the work that Pantoja has done in his career. I'm going to go with Pantoja. I still think Manel Kape can be exposed on the ground. Some of his antics in the fight have cost him in the past with the hands down and screaming, and he gets dropped. I still got to go with Pantoja. I still think he should be more of a favorite against Manel Kape. I think Manel Kape's got a bright future. It's just, look, there's a big difference fighting in the ring with shoes on, and it's a big in comparison to the UFC. The ref ain't gonna stop. The ref ain't gonna stop you when y'all are out the ropes and bring you back in the middle. And you're not fighting an unathletic, weaker South Korean or a Japanese opponent now. This is the real deal. This is Alexandre Pantoja. So I'm gonna go with Pantoja. I think he can expose Manel, Kape on the ground, but like you said, he needs to not brawl. And I am concerned about the amount of damage Pantoja's been taking in these fights. But another thing I wanted to say, I think he got a little distracted before the Askar fight, and I feel like it's carrying over into the betting line this fight. If you can't, the Figueiredo was kind of in limbo. Like he tested positive for COVID, I think, or some rumor came out and they were talking about Pantoja was gonna fight Benavidez, and I think Pantoja got sidetracked with that. I mean, I remember he was making posts like, "Yeah, I'm about to fight for the belt," and it's like, "Nah, bro, you still got to fight Askar, who's no slouch at all. Like Askarov can grapple, man." So, I think that I'm gonna go with Pantoja here. I think he got sidetracked a little bit the last fight, and he's never lost 2 in a row. So.
Yeah, good points. I wanted to respond to a comment. K says Pantoja eats clean shots against Figgy. Cap hits harder than Figgy. If he gets rocked, it probably just gets him to grapple. So let's examine what you just said. So Pantoja eats clean shots against Figgy. Fact. Cap, you're asking, does Cap hit harder than Figgy? Look, I don't really think it's about hitting harder or not hitting hard. To me, it's more about Pantoja takes a lot of damage every fight, and eventually is going to catch up to you. Just kind of like, Dan Hooker could eat every single shot from Dustin Poirier for 5 straight rounds. And then he goes down to the first punch against Mike Chandler. Like eventually your durability wanes. That's why I'm bringing up the fact that, if Pantoja comes out here and brawls, eventually someone's going to put him down. So I get your point, man, but to me, it's about accumulation. With that being said, get this to the mat, and maybe you won't have to worry about that. So yeah, I'm going Pantoja. Let's see who the better man is on the night. Now, next up, we got the featured bout in the lightweight division. We got Michael Johnson, MJ, the Menace. He's 19-16, Shaq, and Clay the Carpenter Guida is 35-20. Currently, they got Michael Johnson -225. The comeback on Clay Guida is +185. I mean, dude, another Michael Johnson fight. So he's better than Clay Guida. He's faster than Clay Guida. He's beat better people than Clay Guida. It's just what's going to happen when he lights up Clay Guida and then he gets taken down and the legs start getting laced up. And then you're like, MJ, get up. MJ, wait. MJ, please. MJ, no. So, I mean, it's like, I know how good Michael can be. It's just like, is he going to pull a stunt here? We got to talk like this. He's a -225 favorite, Shaq.
Yeah, man. I just want to get more off the talk of how good he can be. Look, he ain't never getting to that point ever again. And it's been like that for a long time. I mean, he lost to Darren Elkins, who he was much faster than. He got knocked out against Josh Emmett. He lost to Thiago Moises, lost to Stevie Ray, lost to like he's lost. Look, the only time Michael Johnson wins if the guy's better than him. Let's just be. I'm just kidding. I'm totally joking. But yeah, man, Michael is just one of these guys I like to stay away from, man. Look, I'm gonna pick him to win this fight just for the reasons you said: faster hands, Clay Guida, very chinny. Man, I took Bobby against Clay his last fight. But Clay, man, I was surprised by his toughness. I honestly thought Bobby would smack him around. I mean, he did smack him around, but he hung in there. I mean, he was on them singles hard. He was pressing the whole time. I don't know if Michael Johnson gets in some of them situations. I don't know why I should believe that he's gonna will through and get out of it. But one thing I want to say is Michael Johnson did leave Henry Hooft. From what I hear, he's actually training at a Brazilian jiu-jitsu based gym, like a jiu-jitsu gym. So maybe he's trying to finally address this issue with him on the ground. I'm going to pick him to win, but from a betting perspective, I'm going to kick my feet up and watch the two. I still consider Michael Johnson a legend. Look, I know he's lost damn near half his fights, but Michael Johnson is still, knocked out Dustin, beat Tony Ferguson, whooped up on Edson Barbosa, Gleison Tebow knockout back in the day. Michael Johnson had his day. I mean, he was a top 5 guy at one point. Then Diaz smacked him around, and it was kind of just, it was downhill from there. He rebounded with Dustin, but since then it was just the Gaethje fight. I know you remember the things he was saying before the Gaethje fight. He kind of, I think that was the start of it, man. Once you start saying things like that, it's like, bro, like you're tripping. That's why he's losing to guys like Stevie Ray, like Thiago Moises. And shout out to Moises because I actually think he's gotten a lot better, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that. When I just watched that leg lock, it looked pretty good, but we know Michael will tap to anything. So it's like, Clay, if you want to get in there and jump for a heel hook, by all means, go ahead. I mean, I get if you want to take that shot on Clay. This guy, Michael Johnson, lost to Stevie Ray, and got fully mounted and smashed on. So I'll go with Michael once again, but you already know how I feel about this.
I mean, it's interesting because we got Michael Johnson, who has wins over Dustin Poirier, Tony Ferguson, Edson Barboza, and then we got Clay Guida, who's got wins over Rafael Dos Anjos, Anthony Pettis, and Nate Diaz. So both these guys have beat the who's who at 155 pounds. Both guys are legends. Guida's already a Hall of Famer with the Diego Sanchez fight. I got nothing but good things to say. I love both these guys. It's just really about Johnson's going to control this fight until he either wins or until he pulls a stunt. So that's really what it comes down to in my eyes. He should definitely be favored here. He's the better guy. It's just keep your head on straight for 15 minutes or for however long this fight lasts, and you win. If Clay starts getting takedowns, starts lacing that leg, starts sticking to him like glue, go to the live betting window and bet Clay. But pre-fight, I got to go with Michael Johnson to get it done. Hopefully he does. Don't fuck this one up, So let's see. Co-main event of the evening in the bantamweight division. We got Corey, the Sandman Sandhagen, he's 13-2, and Frankie, the Answer Edgar, the former lightweight champion, is 24-8. Currently, they got Corey Sandhagen minus 400. The comeback on Frankie Edgar is plus 325. So I gotta say this. I was pleasantly surprised with how well Frankie took the shots at 135 pounds in his last fight against Pedro Munoz. Like, I understand Pedro gets hit a lot, but Pedro also hits hard. I mean, Pedro knocked out Cody Garbrandt. Pedro hit Rob Font so hard that Rob Font, the guy that's known for his boxing, actually shot in on the guy with the best guillotine in the entire division. So that's how hard Pedro hits. Frankie ate those shots for 5 straight rounds. So I think that 135 pounds has been his right weight class this entire time. It's just now at 39 years of age, he finally made the drop. It's because when you win a belt at 55, when you're a top 5 guy at 45, you probably think, man, I don't need to cut any weight. I'm Frankie the Answer Edgar. But finally, it was starting to catch up to him. He couldn't hang with those bigger guys at 45 anymore. So he dropped to 35. I like what I'm seeing. It's just that now he's got another super tough matchup here in Corey Sandhagen, who's got, we call him the output king for a reason. The guy goes out there, lands almost 7 strikes per minute, very tall, switches stances nicely, his arsenal of strikes. He can go out there and paint a picture. So I like this kid Sandhagen a lot. The area of concern here, because look, this is not a pick'em. This is not minus 200. This is minus 400. So we got to address every single concern when we talk about a line this wide, Shaq. The biggest concern is Corey Sandhagen's wrestling. He's only got 30% takedown defense. He's been taken down a lot. Frankie Edgar, we're talking about a guy that not only has landed a bunch of takedowns throughout his career, but he's got experience fighting these taller guys, whether it's Yair Rodriguez, whether it's Charles Oliveira, and whether it's Max Holloway. He beat 2 of those guys. He went the distance with the other. And I understand that Charles Oliveira isn't the guy back then that he is today, but let's not act like Charles Oliveira was some bum back then. He was still, a top 15, top 20 guy. It's just now he's a top 3 guy. So Frankie's been beating guys that I think are better than Sandhagen for a long time. It's just that now, you're 39 years old. How long can you keep doing this kind of stuff for? So I don't know, man. If I know for a fact that Frankie's landing more than 1 takedown in this fight, then it might actually be a dog or pass situation, but I don't know that. And I know he gets rocked a lot. And I know on the feet, the output difference is huge. So I'm going to lean with Corey as a pick, but I don't blame anyone that wants to put a little bit on Frankie and see if he can test the wrestling of Sandhagen. Because I think that's his path to victory here, Shaq.
Yeah, that's his only path to victory. I mean, he's gotta be a D1 wrestler for this fight if he wants a chance. Hug him, tie him to him, glue. Because Corey Sandhagen, I'll tell you what, man. I watched some tape on him just recently. I don't want to say he's overrated, but I think that he still, needs a little bit work before we can say he's a legitimate threat to the title to guys like Peter Yan. And we already saw what Sterling did to him. Finished him in less than a minute, if I'm not mistaken. So Corey Sandhagen, very good striker. I mean, the body work, the feints, all of that is on point, and he's at range. He's probably gonna light Frankie up. I mean, with everything in the book. The thing I don't like with Sandhagen is he has this bad habit of when they get into the clinch of giving up his back, man, like every single time. Like he's got like this habit where a Sunsao picked him up and dumped him, and they were on the ground for a whole round. And I mean, dude has a very loose grappling style. He likes to go for the triangles and the arm bars. He hit a nice one against Mario Bautista. Yeah, so he hit a nice one against Mario Bautista. But I am kind of after watching Sandhagen. I mean, if Frankie comes in with that game plan and just hug his waist and try to wrestle, I mean, I could see him possibly making this a sweat. I don't know about if he's going to actually win, but man, Sandhagen's got a bad habit with that. I mean, every time they get into the clinch, he gives up his back. And you said he had a what percentage takedown defense? Like 30? So
30.
Yeah. If Frankie is, I mean, Mark Henry, I assume Mark Henry and these guys are still good business and still some of the, I mean, Mark Henry, you already know what I think about Mark. Mark is a guy that should be, that's a stamped guy right there. My boy Mark Henry is one of the top guys in the game. So I'm gonna go with Sandhagen, but I could see Frankie making this. I mean, he's got nothing to lose. I mean, all the pressure's on Sandhagen. Sandhagen has to come out here and maintain his position, his pole position for this title shot. Frankie's got nothing to lose. That's a dangerous Frankie Edgar right there. All the odds are against him. I mean, I remember back in the day when all the odds used to be against Frankie, and he would whip these dudes' asses. So he looked good at 35. I won't lie, he looked good. He ate them shots. He kept moving. But one thing I want to say is that fight was in one setting. That fight was all Pedro moving forward and Frankie moving side to side, landing counter shots. Pedro Munoz failed to make adjustments. Pedro Munoz, his footwork is nowhere as good as Corey Sandhagen's. His weapons, I mean, his defense, everything striking. So, of course, there's a good chance that Sandhagen styles on Frankie out in space. But that wrestling, yeah, man, you're right, man. It needs some work because he gives up that back a lot.
He definitely does. So, man, I can't wait to see if this line is justified, if he should be an even bigger favorite, or if it's actually a dog or pass situation. So, I'm very excited. Let's see that USA wrestling, Frankie. Main event of the evening, we got Alistair the Reem Overeem. He's 47-18, and Alexander Volkov is 32-8. Currently, they got Volkov minus 200, Overeem plus 170. So I heard a lot of people saying this might be Overeem's last fight. I don't know if there's any truth to that. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But if that's true, if there's any truth to that, and don't quote me on it, just thank you, Overeem. You're a true legend. Maybe never touched UFC gold, but to me, is for sure a Hall of Famer, and just one of the best to ever do it at heavyweight. So I got nothing but respect for Overeem. It's just in this matchup with Volkov, I think it's going to be kind of tough for him, because one thing about Volkov, I used to always talk about how he's this mover, he's got this good volume style, but now you put on those 20 pounds, he weighed 265 pounds his last fight. Actually, let me check what he weighed in at today. I'm curious if he weighed in at 265. There's also a chance he hasn't weighed in yet, because heavyweights like to. Okay, he weighed in 264, so good. We're dealing with the big Volkov. I like him at 265, man. He's sitting down on his punches more. His power's translating. It's carrying over more in the heavyweight division, and he's not just that mover anymore. And, man, that performance against Walt, I know, Walt's going through some shit, but, still, the way Volkov looked, because I think he felt at, 245, at that weight, he probably wasn't going to touch gold. He needed to change something up after that Blades fight. Well, he did change something up, and those 20 extra pounds aided him tremendously. I think they aid him here. I think it's a fun, competitive striking match until Volkov lands on the chin of Overeem. And this isn't like Pavlovich, who I respect a lot, but it's just kind of needs a little seasoning, needs a little experience. There's not like Sakai, who I also respect a lot, needs a little experience, needs a little seasoning. This guy, Volkov's got 40 pro fights, so he's in his prime right now, and I think he's ready to come out here and add another knockout loss to Reem's record, man. So I like Reem a lot. I respect him. I'm going Volkov here. I think he outpoints him, outstrikes him, and eventually knocks him out, Shaq.
Yeah, Reem is a very clever guy. He set up Sakai. He kind of gave Sakai that false sense that he was winning the fight, but he was just getting Sakai to dump energy load. And Reem's ground and pound is right up there. I don't hear Alistair's name too much when we talk about top ground and pound guys in the sport, but that ground and pound is money, because Pavlovich I mean, that was some much ground and pound I've ever seen in Sakai as well. So Alistair Overeem, ton of respect for that guy. I honestly thought this fight was a little wide in terms of the line until I saw the Walt Harris fight again. I was like, man, he looks super big. Walt Harris, maybe not be on that level of Overeem, considering Overeem also beat him, but we know what happened in that fight. Overeem got rocked several times, but was able to get Walt to gas out and was able to capitalize on that ground game. But Volkov, I mean, his forward pressure, 6'7", those teeps to the body, I do feel like he can frustrate Reem, and I feel like he has a good like fundamental base to like probably not make some of these mistakes that these other guys have been making. I feel like he's much more seasoned than Jaynes or Rosen strike at the time of when him and Overeem fight, who still knocked Alistair out. I know Alistair was winning that entire fight, but I feel like Volkov's game in the clinch. And one thing I want to bring about that Blades fight, man, I respect that his performance in that fight, because I've always said that if your name's not Francis or Stipe, you're probably not beating Curtis. And I like the heart that he showed in that fight, because usually Curtis gets on these dudes, and I mean, he grounds and pounds them, smashes them, and the fight's over. But I mean, Volkov hung in there. Even I think there was he won 2 rounds on maybe one card, but it was a 10-8 first round, I believe. So it was a respectable performance. He got Curtis. I mean, Curtis could barely talk in the post-fight interview. He was that tired from trying to grab Volkov. So now the fact that he's 265, I think it's a good sign for him. So yeah, I agree. I see him getting this win. Alistair's a legend, and you can never say count Alistair out, because he is that smart. He's been around for so long. He finds ways to reinvent himself to keep up with the times. Now he's training in Colorado. I know Alistair has a reputation for being a bit of a gym switcher, but at the same time, I mean, look where it's gotten them. I mean, not so many dudes in the UFC got more money than Alistair. So I'm going to go with Alexander Volkov, but, is the value gone? Who knows, man? I see Volkov winning, though, man. The way he looked against Harris, I was like, man, this dude's big and tall now, and he's got the power. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, should be one hell of a fight. No questions asked. And I like that. Volkov went out there. He got taken down by Blades 14 times. He comes back in that 4th round. He takes Blades down, and like you said, Reem does have some great ground and pound. So actually, I think Reem's path to victory, get this to the mat, try to hold him there, because that's where Volkov has historically had issues. But I think Volkov's been getting better in that area, man. So 5 rounds, I think he's going to find his opening at some point. So may the best man win. Well, Shaq, now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So I'll take it first. The fight to watch, for me, you already know the fight to watch is Beneil Dariush versus Diego Ferreira. Fight's a dead pick'em. 2 dark horses in the lightweight division. Winner not only extends their win streak. I mean, Diego will make it 7, Dariush will make it 6, but they're going to go right there into the top 10. And the next fight could be, 1 or 2 away from that elusive UFC title shot. So, and not only that, this should be all violence while it lasts. So for that reason, Beneil versus Diego is my fight to watch. Well, Shaq, what is your fight to watch for UFC Vegas 18?
My fight to watch is going to be in the flyweight division. I want to see the debut of this guy, Manel Kape. They've been hyping him up for a long time. He's finally here. It's been a while since he last fought too, maybe a couple of years or so. Pantoja, I mean, if he's right up there in terms of most exciting flyweight, right up there with the Davisons and the Morenos. Pantoja, he's got 2 wins over Moreno. I mean, just go to his Twitter page, and he likes to ask Moreno who's daddy occasionally. But he's got to chill out though, because he's got a tough test. But I think that's the fight to watch. The flyweight division keeps proving that like in terms of rising talent, look at all the up-and-comers that they got in that division. You got Jimmy Flick, Manel Kape's in the mix, Mateus Nicolau is back. Just look at all the exciting fights that Paiva. What's the kid that just beat the guy that Paiva beat? What's where's he from? He just beat Zalgas.
Albazi.
Albazi. I mean, it's just Sumajari. I mean, that division is filled with prospects at the time. You got little Figueiredo as well. The flyweight division is in business, and I hate to take a shot at DJ, but the division is so deep now. You know that he's gone.
Man, I kind of wish he'd come back so that they could show him what this new generation looks like. Because you already know what happens when long-reigning champions try to get their belt back. Rarely ever works. So I kind of wish that they'd bring him back so we could really see what's what in 2021. But that's neither here nor there. For me, my fighter to watch is Devonte King Cage Smith. This is a guy who had massive hype when he first came into the UFC. I mean, they matched him up with Makdessi. They matched him up with Trinaldo even. Both those fights fell through. He was matched up with fucking Trinaldo 2 fights into his UFC career, Shaq. That's the kind of high expectations and high hopes they had for Smith. Had the unfortunate setback, the injury, the loss in his family. Let's see how he bounces back here. He's got a very winnable matchup. So I don't want to see him kind of coast to a decision. I want to see him put this guy away and restamp his claim as one of the top prospects at lightweight. And so let's see if he does it. Devonte Smith is my fighter to watch. Who is your fighter to watch, Shaq?
My fighter to watch is going to be Ode Osbourne. I know that he let a lot of people down in his debut, and he said some outlandish things in his pre-fight speech. He said, you're gonna 5 years from now, we're gonna say Conor was on the Ode Osbourne card. Look, I think the kid got seriously sidetracked before that fight, was feeling himself. Now with this layoff, look, he's trying to make an attempt to be in the flyweight division. If you're gonna be in the flyweight picture, you need to beat Jerome Rivera. So I want to see how he does, because I think there is some talent there with the speed, the power, the athleticism. But he's got to redeem himself. Let's see what he does. I think he's the very first fight of the night. So let's see how he opens this fight card up.
Yes, sir. Well, good shit. Well, we want to thank all our fans for taking the time to check out this very special edition of Half the Battle. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you'll give us a like on this video and subscribe to the Half the Battle YouTube channel. We truly appreciate it. You can follow Shaq at MMA Genius 05. You can follow me at Best Fight Picks. You can go to bestfightpicks.com for the plays. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places where we are available. Check out our sponsor, Manscaped, at manscaped.com. Use that promo code BATTLE20 for 20% off and free shipping. We'll be back next week. I hear we got 8 straight weeks of fights. So I look forward to talking more fights with you, Shaq. I know the fans are excited about that. So we'll be going live for every single event coming up. Again, follow Shaq MMA Genius 05, Shaq BFP on IG, me at Best Fight Picks. Also, I've been doing some other written work for Line Movement, so check them out at linemovement.com and check us out at bestfightpicks.com. So thank you guys very much for your time. Again, give us a like and a subscribe. Enjoy the fights. We'll speak soon. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.